a community leader who's looking to really build your community through the power of email? It's the first chance you have to get in front of the right people, and you should make the most of it. So many community leaders take the template approach, and you've lost your community before they've even found you. How about crafting the perfect welcome series instead? You can grab my guide, Crafting the Perfect Welcome Series, at theaudienceconverter.com/giveaway. Discover the tips and tactics I use to help my clients get up to an 80% open rate. When people open those first few emails, they're more likely to continue opening your messages, engaging, and buying from you. Build your community the right way with a welcome series that converts. Grab your copy at theaudienceconverter.com/giveaway. Are you wondering exactly which platforms you should be spending your time on? Has the thought crossed your mind that being everywhere is a little bit exhausting? Then this is the episode for you. I'm so excited to welcome you back to more Conversations, Clients, and Cash podcast. This is the podcast all about how to land, of course, more conversations, clients, and cash in your coaching business and build a community that lets you expand into the world and make an impact. And of course, help as many people as you are looking to help. I am your host, Kimberly Weitkamp, a conversion copywriter, marketing strategist, and podcaster. And today we are continuing our discussion on the 5C framework for successful online businesses. So just a brief reminder, the first part of the 5C framework is clarity. You have to know who you're talking to before you can create any kind of marketing messaging. And when I say the word marketing messaging, I want you to remember that's simply the words you use. The words you use when you go live, the words you use when you post on social, the words you use when talking in a podcast interview, the words you use in email. It is essentially just the words that you're going to be using and putting out there into the world. But before you do anything, you have to be clear on what you're talking about and who you're talking to. And the second step of the 5C marketing framework is connection. So first you have clarity, get clear on what you're doing, and then connection. You have to know where you're connecting with your people before, again, putting any of this marketing in place. So let's talk about connection. Remember that connection is that first instance. Now, of course, it's hard for us to track where and when people might hear about us for the very first time. But also remember, it takes people several times, often between 5 and 7, before they're even ready to take that next step, such as listening to us, or listening past the 5-minute mark, or signing up for our email list. So when I talk about connection, I'm talking about where do you make those initial touch points? Where are people finding you? Where do your people hang out? Which is why you can see how clarity is so important. You have to have a very clear and defined audience before you can determine, well, where are you going to find those people, right? Where are you going to find those people? So oftentimes one of the top questions I'll get is, well, where should I be spending my time marketing? Where should I be spending my time? Or I will get a variation of a question like, I've heard new channel is the place to be. How can I get started there? But the question you really want to ask is my audience there? Where is my audience currently? Where can I connect with them where they're already spending time? And this goes into demographics, but it also goes into how people are choosing to spend their time online. If you had asked me a couple of years ago, I would have said, well, of course you're going to be on Facebook. But now a few things are happening, right? Facebook's audience is getting older, but Facebook has also rapidly and progressively changed their algorithm and how they treat things. And of course, how they deliver advertising as well. Now you might be thinking, yeah, advertising, I don't do ads. I want to know about organic. But the fact that they're changing the way they do advertising also changes the way that they're going to be putting power behind organic and what they will and won't be putting power behind. So even a few months ago, I would have said, if you are talking to people who are over 35, be on Facebook. That's where they are. Most definitely, that's where they are. It used to be, if you're talking to people in their 50s or 60s, they're not on Facebook. You have to meet with them somewhere else. But now they are on Facebook. They're the most rapidly growing segment on Facebook, actually. Or at least they were the last time of this recording. And that's something else to keep in mind, right? On social media and in marketing in general, especially in the online space, is that it all changes fairly rapidly. So when I get the question, well, where should I be spending my time? My answer is always, well, where are your people currently? Where can you find your exact ideal client that they're already spending time there? You don't have to get them there. That's where they're already spending their time. So when Clubhouse launched, everyone's like, oh, you got to be on Clubhouse. It's getting, I'm getting 10,000 followers. I'm getting so many people listening to me. But my question was always, well, if you're investing your time on Clubhouse, A, are your people there? But also, is it worth your time because you can't reuse what you were using on Clubhouse? So you have Clubhouse, you have TikTok, you have Circle, you have Mighty Networks, you have Facebook. There are so many different places that you can be on social media. Some of them require an account. Well, all of them require an account, but some of them require a few extra steps. Some are not as popular. So where are your people? Once you know where your people are hanging out, that's when you can start to decide where to put your time. Now, there's this new rising trend that I've heard about the necessity of being omnipresent, right? You have to be everywhere. But I'm still a big believer in the fact that while you do want to have a presence on other networks, you really want to put your focus into 2 or 3. One of those is going to be email. It's still the best method for you to connect with lots of people at once. So that's another connection point, right? How are you getting people into your email list? But as part of that process, you're probably connecting with them in a first place as well on social media. So all platforms aren't worth your time. You are going to have higher quality people, the way people interact on a platform, the way people spend time on a platform, that all goes into the connection piece as well. So when you are creating the right messaging for who you're talking to, this is why you don't want to be on all platforms, because the way people expect you to talk to them on LinkedIn is very different than the way they expect to hear from you on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or YouTube. Okay. So when we talk about connection, this is why you want to focus on a few places to start. Not to say you can't add other platforms in the future. In fact, I'd recommend it. Once you've essentially conquered or figured out exactly what the best method is for you to use a particular channel, feel free to add another one, especially if it's another place where you know your people are. For example, I have a podcast. I know people who come onto the show and the people who listen, they like podcasting. They're on podcasting networks. What does that mean? It means I'm also going to be on podcasts. Why? Because my people listen to podcasts. If they listen to my podcast, there's a good chance they listen to other podcasts. And even if someone's not listening to my podcast, they can hear me from another person's podcast, and I know they're a good fit. But where else are they? Where do they currently spend their time? Now, if you don't know, there's no harm in asking. Ask your list, the people you know currently. Where did you find me? Where did you hear about me from? Ask your followers. Where did you first meet me? Maybe they'll answer you on Instagram, but they first met you on Facebook. Maybe they'll answer you on LinkedIn, but they first met you on TikTok. Doesn't matter. What matters is you have to know where you're going to connect with your people before, again, sitting down to write your marketing. Why? Because the platform and the way people use the platform is also going to tie into how you create your messaging. But you have to have a plan to be connecting. I help people all the time create what we like to call lead generation funnels, right? You create a free gift or a free opt-in of some kind. You have a landing page. You create a couple of emails to follow up with people, and it's all automated so that people can just land on the page and say yes to being closer to you and to your world. And it's really fast. It's kind of passive, right? You all you need is someone to find that page. But then people stop there. They don't share it. They don't actively get people to connect that way. And that is part of what comes in when we talk about connection. Right? You need to make the invitation. You need to have something else for them to do. So when you connect with those people, you want to get them off the other platforms as fast as possible too. And here's the reason why. Social media, for the most part, is passive. It's not active engagement. And people were like, well, they have to like, they comment. Yes, they do all of those things. But it doesn't necessarily lead to them saying, hey, I want to work with you. They might love the memes that you share. They might love the content that you share. They might tune into every single live that you do. However, if they never take that next step to say, hey, you know what? I want you to know my name. I want to learn more about your products. I want to buy your products. If they never take that step, and usually that step requires them to join your list in some way, unless you're sharing directly to a paid product from social media, which that's another topic for another day. But when you get people into your world, that's when they're really raising their hand and saying, you know what? I want to hear from you directly. I'm not just going to wait for a social platform to put you in front of me, even though I like your stuff and occasionally I'll see it. When they make that move to say, yes, I want to get onto your list, they're saying, yes, I really do want to hear from you first. So when you connect with people, you have to know, where are you connecting with them? What is that next step? What is that next step? And how are you going to be sharing that out? So it's not enough for us to have a way for them to get into our email list. We have to actively share it. And it's okay to share numerous times. One of the things most of us have heard but haven't really internalized is that the organic reach on any of the platforms is about 1% to 2%. What does that mean? Of the people who have raised their hand and said, yes, absolutely, I want to hear from this person, they're going to see 1% to 2% of our posts. Or another way of looking at it is, even if you have 1,000 followers, only 100 of those followers will ever see any post that you put out there. So with that in mind, it also helps us realize, well, where is our time best spent? You want the people who are actively using those platforms. Building your presence on a platform your people aren't on is not valuable. I will never forget, back when Snapchat had first come out and it was super popular, somebody contacted me and they're like, I'm a dentist and I want to be on Snapchat. Well, here's the thing. At the time, the average user of Snapchat was 13 to 15 years old. Now, I don't know about you, but most 13-year-olds I know, they don't choose where they go to the dentist. Their parent chooses where they go to the dentist. So having and paying for ads on Snapchat is not useful, or paying somebody to manage their Snapchat is not useful. Why? Because very few teenagers are going to say, hey, mom and dad, this dentist, they've got this awesome thing on Snapchat. I want to go to them instead of the one I've been going to for 5 years. It's not going to happen. So remember, when you talk about connection, when you choose where to focus your time, it needs to be A, where your people already are, and B, where your people are actively participating. And you need to choose 1 to 2 platforms outside of email to get started on, right? 1 to 2 platforms to get started on. So that way you can really dedicate the time it takes. You can really put forth the correct effort to actually help the right people, right? One of the things I want all of us to remember is that there are only so many hours in the day. And between serving your clients and building your own business and creating everything you need to create for all of your content needs, part of being on social media is to be interactive on social media. Part of being on other platforms is to build a presence on that platform. And while you can automate a lot of it, you still need to have your own hand in it for the most part. So where is your time best spent? Well, it's best spent with the right people who are actively on that platform. So when we talk about connection as part of the 5 C's, first you need to be really clear who you're talking to, and then you need to know where you're connecting with them. Once you know where you're connecting with them, and of course, what times of day, what kind of content, all of that kind of stuff, then you can truly build a strategy that's going to get in the right people at the right time. So when we talk about connection, you want to invite people to connect. If you never tell people how they can get closer to you, if you never tell people how they can learn more about working with you, then of course they're never going to do it. So another part of that connection segment in the 5 C's is to make that invitation. Make the invitation to connect. Share out that free gift. Share out how they can contact you. And, that'll help you create the right messaging for who you're really talking to. So if you are missing part of that process, if you are missing that entire lead generation funnel, if you are missing that piece of the puzzle that is going to let you not only make the invitation, but also give them a way to connect with you that doesn't require a phone call per se. Because let's be honest, if some of us have even seen 100 hours of video on YouTube, and they're still asking us for a one-on-one call, we may be a little nervous about it. We may not still feel comfortable doing that. Especially, we're not going to feel comfortable doing that if we've only seen them for 5 minutes. So you have to have an in-between and a lead generation funnel that ties into your connection piece, that ties into your outbound strategy, that ties into you getting in front of the right people, can only help you grow your business on what we like to call automatic. It's essentially automated. You share it out, you created it once, you share it out numerous times, and then people continuously come in. So if you are looking for help with creating that lead generation funnel, go to theaudienceconverter.com/live. We have our live event coming up soon. If you're listening to this recording, it is going live February 15th through the 17th, 2022. However, we do this workshop frequently, usually about once a quarter. So even if it's past that date, still head over to theaudienceconverter.com/live to sign up for the next event. And in that event, you're going to discover how to put the 5 C's in place to get more conversations, clients, and cash. And in the process, you're actually going to start creating that lead generation funnel. And when I say creating, I mean you're actually going to get it written. You're going to have time to workshop it, have time to do your writing, have time to get live feedback, and discover how to create the strategy that will really let you put all of this in place for yourself. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of the More Conversations, Clients, and Cash podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Weitkamp, and we have been talking about connection and how important it is to put your marketing efforts in connecting with the right people at the right time with the right messaging. Until next time, keep calm and check out the live event.